So this is it, the final round of the 2017 FF1M Championship, and it's a round that's purely for fun because all championships have been decided, but we're going to enjoy this one anyway, and it comes to you from Baku before Baku was ever a thing, known as the Macau Street Circuit. And I'm being joined by the Willows racing team boss, Joseph Willows.
Or the GUI circuit as it's also known as. But yeah, it's nice to be back in here. It's been a bit of a while, I think a few months since I was last in the box, but yeah, probably the perfect circuit for me to do commentary on, even if both championships have been wrapped up.
Absolutely. I think you were last in the box in Aragon, which saw Väinö Kyminen win his first career race, and he's the world champion because he secured that at the previous race at Interlagos with a 4th place. That was more than enough to secure the championship. And talking of that last race, curiously both Pedersens were absolutely dominant as Sebastian Vettel, returning to the team after his brief stint at Mitchell, led home Carlos Sainz.
Interesting stuff. Was that did we actually co-commentate that? Because I know that, I think at the beginning of, was it this season or last season where I was doing it mainly? I can't 100% remember off the top of my head, it's been too long.
Yeah, I think we did do a co-commentary Brazil in 2015. I think it could have been that one.
Ah, okay. I was just thinking because, of course, beginning of the season, you were obviously on paternity leave, I think is the right term. While I was filling in your shoes for a bit and we were doing some live streams. But yeah, nice to be back in the box, I suppose. I don't have anything to add, but yeah, second race here, and I've got a bit of a feeling, I think I said this to you before we got live, of course, turn 3 is going to be a bit chaotic, I'm predicting.
Yep, Lisboa Bend, and the longest run down to the first braking zone, because you can see from the track map, the start-finish line is on the middle of the straights, and then it's flat out all the way to the very far left. And then the twisty infield sector, which is also quite narrow and includes the infamous Melco hairpin, even tighter than Lowe's. And last season's race saw Kevin Magnussen out-strategise Lewis Hamilton for the race win. Speaking of Lewis Hamilton, he currently holds the pole position record, and he's got another one here. 40th career pole for Lewis, ahead of that former teammate when it was a Mitchell driver, Sebastian Vettel. And then we got Carlos Sainz up in 3rd, having a bit of a resurgence after what's been a bit of a dreadful season for him, alongside fellow Spaniard Fernando Alonso. Nolan Bryant's 5th, and new world champion Väinö Kyminen in 6th place in the Tornado. And then we've got row 4 coming up. Mattia Alfonsi, absolute standout performance for him in his, first season, but his first full season's coming next. Then 2 GRMs, Perez and Bottas 8th and 9th, Roman Grosjean 10th on the grid. He'll be a bit gutted about losing the championship.
And he'll be driving my car next season.
Absolutely, Grosjean teaming up with Max Verstappen, that should be quite a lineup.
Whether we can deliver him a good car or not is another question.
And hopefully I can deliver you a better engine. Fingers crossed. And Max Verstappen 15th, but he was 5th in the warm-up, so Max, if he gets his strategy right, could do pretty well. And there's a new face, Daisuke Sekiya, who has replaced Stoffel Vandoorne as he was on his way to FF1M. And we'll more about that later. And Nico Hulkenberg back for one race only with Andrew Racing, as Jean-Eric Vergne also departing to FF1M, which begins this weekend at the Macau circuit, a double header. And quick look at the back row, Mario Da Silva and Mason Taylor in the CBA Racing.
A lot of new faces since the last time I was in here, so very interesting. But yeah, Sekiya, of course, making his debut here. Of course, it's only a one-off. Of course, he's not going to be an FF1M next season, but I thought, you know what, to give him a bit of a running in a top-class car, given he's in FF2M next season, why not?
And the lights go out very, very quickly, and let's see what happens on the long run to the first corner. Very good second phase of the start from Sebastian Vettel as he draws alongside Lewis Hamilton. And look at the traffic jam further back. What on earth is going to happen? Väinö Kyminen having a look, and up to 3rd. That's a good start from the new world champion. Now then, what on earth is going to happen here into Lisboa Bend? It's Sebastian Vettel who holds the lead quite comfortably. And
It's going to be towards the back, I think, if there's going to be any chaos. But, oh, hello. I think everybody might have got through safely this time.
Oh, Valtteri Bottas clouting the wall on the exit of Lisboa. I should probably get the corner names up because not fully memorised. That was coming through San Francisco Hill, corner after Lisboa, but look at the lead that Sebastian Vettel has got, and we've seen of late that Mitchell have tended to prioritise a qualifying setup for Lewis Hamilton, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if Lewis Hamilton starts holding the field up rather noticeably.
Well, luckily for him, he's on the narrow bit of the track, of course, so it's going to be a little bit impossible for drivers to overtake. Of course, in real life, this is all pretty much yellow flagged, of course, I believe. I think one sector of the track is all yellow flagged for the entirety of the race, but of course, because it's GP4, that doesn't really exist, although because of how narrow it is, I don't think we'll be seeing anybody going for any risky dive bombs at this point in time.
Yeah, we're in the perma yellow flag zone in real life now, the Melco hairpin. But now it opens up into the faster stuff through Black Sands and then the Fisherman Bend, which Sebastian Vettel is already at. And then the final turn 24 actually, R Bend, which is the end of the first lap as Sebastian Vettel has an enormous lead. He's going to be very difficult to beat. 1 or 2 stops expected, and Vettel, Hamilton and Kinnunen all look to be 2-stopping.
Indeed so, as we ride on board with Kinnunen, a little bit too far back to challenge Hamilton at the moment, but still keeping him within touching distance. Alonso also just behind as well, followed by fellow compatriot Carlos Sainz. I was going to mention with Sainz as well, because I remember last couple of years he seemed to be a little bit under the radar in FF1M, as that is Perez in fact trying to make an overtake. I mean, he's on Bright as Bright clips the wall there, but gets away with that one as Perez goes up to 7th. His Clark tried to overtake his own teammate there, but it didn't quite work out. Of course, at the moment, only just realised an AG currently in the points, because they're currently bottom of the constructors behind my team at the moment.
There's Matteo Alfonsi, who Perez was getting past, and AJ last in the championship, and unless they have a big points haul for this one, it looks as if they're going to be rooted down there. But we'll still be seeing AJ next season, and they're sticking with Matteo Alfonsi, and they'll be joined by Kimi Raikkonen, who got dropped from the previous race after a pretty poor season, it has to be said, with CBA, and CBA favouring the first ever Kiwi to race in FF1M, Mason Taylor.
Not quite Liam Lawson then, or even Brendan Hartley for that matter.
Yeah, a bit early for Lawson and Brendan Hartley not up there yet.
No, as they now make their way in towards the infamous hairpin, where we do tend to see a lot of drivers, particularly in GP4, often get better traction, especially if you're the leading car in a battle.
Absolutely, and we saw that last season where, despite catching up to Magnussen in the closing stages, Hamilton just couldn't get the traction out of Melco. So you need a pretty big engine advantage on this long section of about 2 kilometres from Arbend all the way to Lisboa. And let's see how powerful Nolan Bryant's Megatron is as he chases the Mugen-powered Sainz. I think Mugen have definitely improved since the last engine upgrade, which I think was Sepang. We've been seeing Alessandro Farina have some very good races, a couple of podium finishes, could have been another one at Interlagos, but a late mechanical issue scuppered that.
Well, like Bottas was trying to challenge Clark there into turn number 3, but it didn't quite work out for him. Here is Sakeo at the moment, running a pretty quiet race, I think, in P number 18, staying out of trouble at the moment, so that's the important thing. Of course, expect this to be a little bit of a learning stage for Sakeo. Of course, as mentioned, he will still be in FF2M next season, where I'm hoping he can challenge for the championship this time around, because, yeah, not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed that he wasn't in the fight this season, but, you know, it was his, I think, his first year in the series, so hopefully second time lucky next season for him.
And he had a pretty good season. He had a feature race win at the Hungaroring, and well into the top 10 by the championship's end. So yeah, I can see a lot of potential in Daisuke.
Same here as well. Who knows? Maybe a future Willows driver down the line. Well, he's currently a Willows driver for today, but it's only a temporary thing, of course, because of obviously Van Dorn doing duties in FF1M, of course. Farina!
That's a mechanical problem for the Gajera, the Gi Racing-owned conglomerate. So yeah, actually, since the engine upgrade, they've been a bit less reliable because, yeah, we've been seeing quite a few mechanical issues for Mugen of late, and there's another one. And there's another one. It's De Silva. Both Gajeras out by lap 6.
And it's the same issue, a gearbox issue. So clearly, this team struggling with the gearbox, it seems, for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is not going to do Mugen's development much good, although they do have Let's see, 1, 2, 3 of the cars in the top 5. Where's the other one? Chuck Bucknam in 15th, the FF2M champion. Oh, that's Taylor having a look at Magnussen into Lisboa. Careful, Kev. Yeah, you're careful enough, but Taylor making a move.
Even with a scrape of the wall, but he manages to get away with it. As we look at Hulkenberg now, who is on the back of, that is Bucknam, I should say, in the... I can't figure out... It's been a while, I apologise. I've clearly forgotten what the cars are nowadays. But yeah, he's now into the narrow bit, so he's
Yellow
probably
flags.
Still behind us. Whoa, what's going on in front? Oh, there's an AJ. It's an AJ, it's Clark.
And he's crashed out. That was coming out of the San Francisco... What corner was it? That'll be through these Solitude S's, through Teddy Yip.
Yeah, it's happened earlier than that. He's obviously carried a bit too much speed, had some understeer, and he's gone right into the wall. Race over for him, and, well, it's allowed, I'm going to say it inherited his teammate into the points, but he was actually behind Alfonsi, so it really didn't make that much of a difference with AJ's Pitstop. And you were saying that because I think Hamilton's just made an error there.
An error coming out of Fisherman's. I think Clark actually crashed nearly through maternity bends. That was 6 and 7. But anyway, so yeah, that's not done Clark's stock much good, as he's going to move to Gajera next season to partner Alessandro Farina. Quite amusing, actually. I think Guy said that this was the first ever all-fictional lineup. Not to realise CBA went all-fictional before the season's end, but anyway.
Kimmonen's got the move done into second place. He's moved ahead of Hamilton, and now Hamilton has got Fernando Alonso to deal with.
And Kimmonen needs that one. There's a record, actually, that Tornado are after, which is as Bryant makes an early pit stop. So Tornado are looking to break Shake and Bake's record from 2009 of most points scored in a single season. Previously 230, and I think they're currently on 224. So basically, a second place will do that nicely and break the record.
So as it stands, that will happen with Kimmonen currently holding on to 8 points. Where is his teammate at the moment, just out of curiosity?
Well, with pit stops underway, Grosjean is briefly up to 6th.
So he would have been 7th without Alonso's pit stop then. So yeah, I think that's pretty comfortable, of course, because that makes it 10 points. Well, he would have been... he would have been 7th, so at the moment they're currently holding on to 10 points at the moment once everybody makes their the pit stops. But Alonso rejoins 13th behind Perez, so he's come out in a bit of traffic there as we now look at Vettel, who's in the pits.
Race leader Vettel, and he was still opening up the race leading gap between himself and Kimmonen, so Vettel very comfortable in the lead, it seems, as he is going to move to Andrew Racing next season to partner Daniel Ricciardo. And if Andrew continue their march, then they could be very strong championship contenders next season, but they are having a new car next season, so they may not have the best start to the season in 2018.
Perhaps not, but you never know. Crazy things have happened in FF1M, as Kimmonen is going to be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. He's pretty much the only one of the leads who's yet to make a pit stop, and he'll go straight on after this point in time, rather than turning right into the final corner, which leads onto the pit straight. He's going to go straight on, and into the pit lane goes the Flying Finn.
Flying Finn number 4 or 5. I'm trying to think of the previous ones, but Vino Kimmonen passing the helicopters. Surprised that they'll be able to fly in amongst the skyscrapers, but Roman Grosjean, having made his pit stop, he's having the door shut firmly there by Nico Hulkenberg in front of him. Grosjean was the fastest driver on the circuit last time out, so his new tyres working well.
I must point out as well, look how badly Hamilton's pit stop has become, because look at all the cars around it. They have all made a pit stop. Hamilton has dropped way down the order.
Yes, behind all sorts of drivers, including Perez, Alonso, Ricciardo, Bryant, as Sainz versus Vettel for the race lead. They need to cooperate here. Fairly sure Sainz is going to be one stopper in this race, so shouldn't make it too difficult for Vettel, but Sainz looking quite good for a podium finish.
Well, if he's on a 1 stop and Vettel's on a 2 stop, then why should Sainz need to let him through? I mean, as long as they keep it clean, there is a chance of a 1-2 here.
Chance of a 1-2, and if they do finish 1-2, then Pedersen could well be nudging back up to 7th in the Teams Championship, especially with both Gajeras out of the race. Yeah, Pedersen need to work this one pretty well if they're going to rocket up the order. Anyway, back to... This is Grosjean versus Hulkenberg.
It looks like he might have a good chance this time because he's alongside the German, and that's easy as pie. P12 for Roman Grosjean. But yeah, back to the whole thing with the peloton thing. I mean, you say that they need to really work together on this one. Well, they've got a bit of a buffer already to Kymmenen, because look at that, 22.5 seconds Kymmenen is behind the two pelotons in this race. So yeah, in a way, they can sort of afford to hold each other up a little bit, but not to the point where they start taking lumps out of each other.
Literally lumps if they're approaching Lisboa at racing speed and if there are no team orders. And it's the Pedersen's last race for a while because not on the grid next season. They're taking a bit of a sabbatical.
Bit of a shame, because maybe this end of the season they've had that you talked about earlier with them having a resurgence of form, it may have been a last hurrah, I suppose, for a while to show what they're really capable of.
Yeah, I think. But hopefully we'll be seeing Pedersen back at some point, as that's Gonzalez versus Grosjean briefly for 11th, as through Melko go Sainz and Vettel. Let's talk briefly FF1M, because this is obviously the same weekend as the FF1M Championship, and a few drivers have jumped ship, including Cooper Lee, who will be racing for your team next season alongside Antonio Felix da Costa.
Yep, I've got some really good hopes for Cooper Lee, of course.
Yellows, by the way.
Okay, obviously. Yeah, I just noticed that as well. But we're not quite seeing who it is at the moment. I think it's Clark, actually. No, we've already lost Clark. Who's dropped? Is it Buckingham? I did see somebody drop down the order, but I couldn't quite... Yeah, it is Buckingham, I think it is. That's the one that's retired. I think Buckingham's out of the race, and he's crashed out.
Crashed out at San Francisco Hill before Maternity Bend, as Vettel is thinking of a move into the Lisboa, and he retakes the lead from Carlos Sainz. So formation flying a little bit, as we're going to see the replay of Buckingham's accident. So through San Francisco Hill to the left and a little bit to the right, and through Maternity, smash.
It's the same error as what we saw Clark earlier do, and unlike Clark, he's actually parked it just before the right-hander there, and well, yeah, pretty much the same error really. It seems that a couple of drivers struggling with that corner, especially with the bump that's in the middle of that part of the track, as Grosjean still stuck behind Gonzalez here. Is he going to think about a move there? No, he's not. Surprisingly enough, actually, I think I'll bring this up. Relatively clean around that turn 3 at the moment. We haven't really seen the usual drama that usually happens. I mean, we've had a few bumps here and there with some people scraping the wall, but not the usual drama that we usually have with that corner.
Yeah, they're fairly well behaved at the moment. I mean, last season we did see Perez's championship challenge end by smashing into the nose and then wiping out Sebastian Vettel a bit later on. But yeah, it's all been clean so far, although, having said that, Perez and Alonso are approaching the said zone, as Alonso's finding the ride of this car a little bit bad, getting a bit bumpy through Mandarin.
I was going to say it looked like he was losing a bit of control of that car, but luckily was able to correct it. As Max Verstappen's actually one place away for the points. Grosjean thought about a risky move there. He is really desperate to get by Gonzalez, but again, he is not letting him through, and here we go again for round 3.
And Sainz has just made a pit stop. He's dropped down to 12th behind this raging battle between Gonzalez and Grosjean into Lisboa. Gonzalez shouldn't really be hanging on round the outside, but somehow gets away with it as Grosjean moves up into 10th as Valtteri Bottas in the very, very unreliable GRM caps off what's been a pretty miserable season for him.
And it's a puncher that's taking care of him that time around, as now we look at Romain Grosjean, who now has his sights set on, I believe that is, well, it says Max Verstappen, but that looks like an AJ that's in front. It might be actually it's actually Alfonso, because Verstappen has actually got himself up into 8th place, so good point to be on the cards for Max. And in fact, has Alfonso got a problem? Because that was Grosjean taking 9th there, I suppose, because that looks a little bit strange. I don't think it was. Maybe Alfonso made a mistake, as now Grosjean tries to attack his future teammate Max Verstappen.
For the final point, I think Alfonso was defending a bit heavily going into Fisherman's, and then that compromised his exit, and that was how Grosjean managed to overtake, because you can see just behind Alfonso still in the mix, but dropping back a little bit. Yeah, FF1M, you've rescued Cooper Lee. I'm trying to think of some of the things that are of the driver lineups. I've gone for AJ's test driver, actually, Pierre Gasly, to partner Nick Cassidy in the E-Bar Gum Racing.
Just overtaking Verstappen in the meantime. I just thought I'd point that out.
Yes.
Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly, Nick Cassidy.
We keep getting interrupted when talking about FF1M, it must be said.
Yeah, I'm just continuing it. So, Väinö Kimmonen, he's currently in second, but due in the pits at the end of this lap. That's quite early for a two-stop strategy, so he's been closing the gap to himself and Sebastian Vettel, but I suspect that'll have been down to a lighter fuel load. And by the way, Nolan Bryant up in third. Could we see him finally get his first podium in what has been a very unlucky season for the American, as Grosjean versus Hamilton into our bend? Nearly contact between the two.
Well, in terms of Bryant, I think he'll need to be wary of Sainz, of course, because he is on that one stop, let's not forget. So if he is going to get a podium, he's going to have to potentially pass him on the track. As Grosjean again lining up Hamilton here, he's going to try and make him lunge into turn number 2. He's thinking about it, and you know what? I think he might have actually pulled it off here.
Very compliant Lewis Hamilton, very fair, as he surrenders, well, nearly surrendering, but he's having to go back into Lisboa on the brakes, but there goes Grosjean, and Verstappen's going to take advantage of that, is he? Oh, good grief, Hamilton clobbering the wall a little bit, but getting away with it.
Hamilton and Verstappen coming close to blows. Where have I seen that one before?
Never heard that one before.
Yeah, never happened before in real life. I can't put my finger on it. Anyway, Kimmonen is now in the pits.
So I'm just trying to calculate the pit stop time. So Kimmonen was about 12 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. He's already lost the place to Nolan Bryant. Pit stop, pit times, pit speed. Pit lane speed limit 60 kilometres an hour, so that's going to be longer pit times. But so Kimmonen losing, that's the best part of 30 odd seconds that he's lost.
Yeah, indeed, and he's obviously come out in third place, so in fact he is ahead of Sainz, who seems to have got, because of the fact he's been held up in traffic a lot, he seems to have lost quite a lot of time. As we look at Grosjean, who's still on a charge. In fact, he's going for a risky move, and well, it was always going to happen there, Grosjean going for a risky move, and that has taken poor Daniel Ricciardo out of it.
Well, let's see through San Francisco, and it was a lunge, which was fair enough, as Daniel Ricciardo got onto the marbles and smashed into the Armco barrier. So let's see that from on board the Australian.
Looked to me like he got a little bit scared there. He saw Grosjean last minute and kind of panicked.
Yeah, it's a good summation of that. As out of the race goes the Andrew.
Now, I do wonder if he's slightly blocking the track. I don't think he is. I think there's just enough of a gap for him to go through. This is Verstappen, in fact, trying to have a go at Hamilton.
Oh, no!
No! Verstappen is out of the race. And, well, Verstappen and Hamilton have come to blows. And I think there's more chaos behind, because that's, I think, another wheel that's flying about. I don't know if it's Verstappen's wheel or somebody else's wheel. But, yeah, Hamilton and Verstappen have come to blows. Where have we heard that one before?
And Hamilton lost his front wing, so he's still in the race, but having to make an emergency pit stop. That's a shame for Max, who was doing pretty well, and yeah, it's a shame. As through past Alonso goes Grosjean. That was through the first corner, reservoir bend. You don't often see that. He's in the pits this lap.
He is currently flying though, is Grosjean, so it'll be interesting to see where he ends up come the end of the race. But yeah, that collision with Hamilton Verstappen has actually lifted Sakaya into a top 10 position.
That's a decent effort from the Japanese driver from Tokyo. As Sebastian Vettel is into the pits for his final pit stop, he's being held up by, that's the lapped Lewis Hamilton making a new front wing.
Luckily for Vettel, he did have a big lead, so he could afford to get held up a little bit in the pits. But yeah, not exactly ideal, it must be said, but not like it mattered too much, as he still rejoined in the lead. Still
in the lead from Nolan Bryant, who I think has a second pit stop to make, so Väinö Kimmonen is in a true second place, as his teammate Roman Grosjean comes into the pits.
Indeed so, as Grosjean finishes his pit stop now then, let's see where he is going to emerge. At the moment, it looks like he's down in the unlucky position of 13th at the moment, unless Caracciola gets by at the moment, but it looks like she doesn't, so it looks like it's P13 that Grosjean is going to rejoin. Now the question is, where will he be come the end of the race?
I think there's quite a lot of people still needing to make their second pit stops, but Grosjean a long way ahead of Caracciola, who will remain with the FJR team next season alongside Kevin Magnussen. And she's done alright. Got that podium at Mugello, but the FJR has not been a great car this season. Very, very draggy, I've noticed, but So I'm going to try and address that for next season in some way.
And that was Kimmonen overtaking Bryant there into second place. So not wasting any time there on the, I believe that's the Shake and Beat driver. I presume it is because it is a silver car. They are known for having silver. But anyway, we're now looking at, who is this we're looking at? It's a Pedersen we're looking at as, I believe
Sainz.
it is Sainz. It's the one stopping Sainz. Whereas as Hulkenberg is out of the race. Another gearbox problem.
And both Andrews out of the race, so that's not going to do Climax's development much good, although their parent team, both their cars are still in it. As Sainz challenges Gonzalez for 5th place. Gonzalez making his way up the order. Does he have a second pit stop to make? We'll find out soon. As up the inside into Lisboa goes Carlos Sainz, and tagging the wall at the exit is Gonzalez going to repay the favour. He tried to, and Sainz nearly came a cropper.
Yeah, nearly did a Ricardo there, as we now look at Grosjean, who's now trying to attack Taylor for 7th place, and he gets the move done into the final corner there. A great move from the Frenchman.
Good move, and both CBAs making their way into the points for the moment. That's not too bad. As Grosjean, his next target is Nolan Bryant, who has now made his 2nd pit stop and is rejoined 6th. So Bryant jumping at Roman Grosjean in that 2nd pit stop sequence.
Yep, indeed, as now he will try to attack Bryant there, who's just in front of him. And obviously we saw Kimmonen overtake him a little bit earlier on. Let's see if the other Tornado can do the same thing.
So I was just about to mention as Alonso needed to make his final pit stop, and he must have done, because he's now back down to 8th place, chasing Mattia Alfonsi, as Kevin Magnussen comes into the pits. And around the outside at Mandarin Bend, that's a brave one from Alonso against a highly inexperienced Alfonsi. But he looks as if he's going to power ahead using pure Megatron grunt against the Hart engine. But Alfonsi in the points is in 8th, and could he cap off 2017 with a single point?
The Battle of the Owls there, it must be said.
Different nations, but Spain versus Italy.
As Sainz, as I mentioned this earlier on, Sainz is currently is on the podium places, but he has got Bryant. I did mention this earlier. If Bryant does want to get that podium, he probably is going to have to overtake Sainz on the racetrack.
So Sainz, the only one still running, actually one stopping in this race. Many of the field running too, and I think we're seeing why, because Bryant was 1.4 seconds quicker than Sainz in that middle sector, which consists of the entirety from Lisboa all the way to the exit of Melco Hairpin. So yeah, that's where the grip is, and Sainz's tyres obviously going off.
Indeed, let's see the gap as they come towards the end of the first sector, and it has gone down to under a second now, even with pure straight line speed. So Bryant definitely getting his foot down. He can sense his first podium is right there for the taking. And
he'll deserve it as well after the season he's had. He nearly got a podium in Road America in front of his home crowd, but was absolutely cannoned into by Lewis Hamilton on the final lap, promoting Gonzalez up into 3rd place, it was. So he's got 2 attempts, one and both into Lisboa. He's going to have to use his Megatron to get ahead of Sainz.
Indeed so, but you can see just how quick he is around this now a bit. You talked about it earlier, how much he was able to gain the previous lap, and it looks like he's doing the same here. I think the way it's going, he's going to end up possibly essentially pushing him along as they come out of the hairpin. It obviously depends on traction, of course, but yeah, Bryant looking very good here.
Through Donna Maria Bend into Melco, and Vettel and Kimmonen already on their penultimate laps. They started that quite a while ago, and ever since the second round of pit stops, Vettel has had the measure over Kimmonen. So Vettel back to his absolute best since leaving Mitchell and then rejoining Pedersen. And yeah, will certainly do his cause for another championship no harm.
Indeed so. It obviously depends on how next year pans out for him, of course, as we ride him boy Brian. I don't think he's close enough on this occasion, so it looks like he's going to be stuck behind Sainz for at least another lap. But time is ticking, of course. He's only got this lap and the next lap to get the move done on Carlos.
Needs to be closer coming out of the Melco hairpin on this one. And further back, who have we got? Roman Grosjean in 5th, ahead of Sergio Perez, who's hold on in there, ahead of Fernando Alonso, who was the quickest driver on the last tour. And Alfonsi holding on to 8th place. How far is he ahead of Daisuke Sakia, who's on the verge of points? if something happens, then Sakir could get points on his debut, which would be quite nice. But in fact, that is a battle. That is the battle right there. Alfonsi versus Sakir. And Sakir needs to not get lapped by Vettel because he'll still have an opportunity. Alfonsi defending.
As long as he's not ahead of him at the, as long as he's ahead of Vettel into the narrow bit, then he should have at least another lap to go. Kimmonen's out. Sakir is in the points.
But I know Kimmonen out with a puncture, and I don't think he crossed the start-finish line to start the final lap, so I think he's going to be out of the points. We'll have to wait and see just to make absolutely sure. And
it obviously depends on whether Vettel, of course, lapped Sakir or not.
And do you know what this means, actually? If Grosjean finishes 4th, then Tornado will not have beaten Shake and Bake. So that's drama.
Indeed, as we now ride on board with Bryant, as this is now, he is on the podium places now, I do believe. So this is now a fight for second place between himself and Sainz.
And they just passed Kimmonen there. So Kimmonen did actually start the final lap just before his puncture. And Bryant is not close enough. I think Sainz may hold on as we have a look at Sebastian Vettel. And Daisuke Sakir has not been lapped. So I think Sakir is actually going to get points on his debut. But let's confirm that later on, because at the final corner, and Sebastian Vettel makes it 2 in a row and caps off Pedersen's career so far on the highest of the highs, as we're about to see Carlos Sainz make it another 1-2 finish. That would be great for them on their sabbatical.
Indeed so, a brilliant way for them to go out, pretty much doing a Suzuki from MotoGP when Alex Rins won their final race. But yeah, it looks like Bryant is not going to get second, but what he will get is his first ever podium.
Absolutely, and Carlos Sainz finishes second, and Nolan Bryant does indeed get his debut podium. Deserved that one. Oh, no, is that Sakir? Is that Sakir's just pulled off?
Oh no! I think it is in my car, in fact, and it looks like, according to the timing screens, Kimmonen is still ahead. So, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be points for Sakir. We'll have to have a look on the result, but it says P8 actually on his death panel on the top, so we'll get that confirmed. A bit of a confusion there, but yeah, he's pulled off just before the start-finish line like Jenson Button did in real life in 2006.
Yes, I think he might still get the points because he was the last of the runners on the lead lap. And let's have a look once the graphic comes up. No. Oh dear. It didn't quite start the final lap.
Not.
That is gutting.
That's very confusing because his death panel said he was P8, so bit of confusion there, but we'll have to take it as it is. Kimmonen got the final point in the end. Oh, gutted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this Sakir should be P8, but I'll clarify that with AJ a bit later on. But yeah, that's the results provisionally. Matteo Alfonsi gets 2 points for AJ, so that will give him confidence into the next season. And the rest of the runners, Mason Taylor dropped down to 12th in the end, and 2 FJRs. At least they're finished. I'll take that.
Yep, indeed. 14 drivers finishing in the end. Both Andrews out. Verstappen crashing out with Hamilton. Well, Hamilton survived, of course, but that's how he crashed out. Bottas, Bucknam, Clark, De Silva and Farina, the other retirements of this race. So, yeah, a very bad day in the office for Gajera, both sustaining a gearbox problem, pretty much very close to each other.
Yep, and there's the confirmation of the final championship standings provisionally, because there's still the matter over whether Kimmonen or Sakir finished P8, but that's a 18 point gap in the end between Kimmonen and Grosjean, but could be 17 barring clarification. Alonso takes 3rd in the Drivers' Championship ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel rocketing up to 6th thanks to his 2 wins. And provisionally, I must emphasise that, Tornado equal Shake and Bake's record, but if I'm right in saying that Sakir actually did finish P8, then Tornado do not equal the record. But anyway, Andrew get their best career result with 2nd in the championship, and Mitchell just hold on to 3rd ahead of Shake and Bake by a single point.
Indeed so. We're not last, we're second to last, so I'll take that really. At least I think we've scored more than what we did last season, so I'll take that.
3 more points than last season.
Here's hoping for better next season. Or maybe 4 more points, depending on what happens with Sakir, of course. But here's hoping for better next season. Here's
hoping for Willows, and here's hoping for plenty of action for 2018 as ever. As we depart 2017, from the two of us, we shall see you soon.
Bye-bye.
A post-race investigation was conducted by the AFIA to determine who should take the final point, and having looked at the timekeeping records, they have ruled that Väinö Kimmonen is in P8 and Daisuke Sakia is in P9, because the regulations state that all cars will be classified taking into account the number of complete laps they have covered, and for those which have completed the same number of laps, the order in which they crossed the line. So it's the complete laps which is of importance, because at the start of the final lap, Kimmonen was running ahead of Sakia, and even though Sakia then took Kimmonen on track when the fin broke down, the fact that Sakia wasn't able to complete the final lap by the merest of 100 yards meant that, cruelly, Sakia loses the final point. It's technically correct, and in Tornado's case, the best kind of correct, because that means they officially tie Shake and Bake's record of 230 points.